In today's episode, we take a look at Punjab, where the government has agreed in principle to shift the security fence in the state closer to the international border with Pakistan. We also talk about a case from Lucknow, where police say a woman tried to frame her husband to be with her lover. But first, we turn to a court order that could change access to cancer treatment for thousands of patients across India. Hi, I'm Ichha Sharma, and you're listening to Three Things, the Indian Express news show. Earlier this month, the Delhi High Court cleared the way for an Indian drug maker to sell a cheaper version of a patented cancer drug that has been long out of reach for most patients in India. At the center of the case is Nivolumab, a blockbuster immunotherapy drug under patent protection, and a legal battle between a global pharmaceutical giant and India's generics industry. In this case, the court weighed patent rights against public interest and clearly sided with access. So, what exactly did the court say? Why does it matter now? And how could this decision change the cost of cancer treatment in India? To answer these questions, we speak to the Indian Express's Sohini Ghosh. Sohini, could you tell our listeners why is this ruling being seen as pivotal for cancer treatment, and also what exactly did the court decide?
So the key factor why this is pivotal is because cost. And what the High Court essentially did was a division bench basically ruled in favor of an Indian manufacturer, saying that even though the plaintiff company, which was Bristol Myers Squibb or ER Squibb and Sons, although they hold a patent over this drug, it expires in May in India. Even though they hold it, because it is about to expire, we must be erring on the side of public interest. So, though there are 4 months for you to have exclusive rights over this drug, but since it's anyway going to expire soon, we might allow the Indian manufacturer to start making this drug. So, this line that the court has taken of public interest, factoring that in even while a patent is valid, that is what makes this decision pivotal or significant today.
Right, and speaking of the drug itself, what is it typically prescribed for? And also, you describe it as a blockbuster in global cancer therapy. So, why is that?
So, Nivolumab is part of a new line of treatment. It's not exactly new, but you can say it's the next generation of treatment when it comes to cancer treatments. These are basically your monoclonal antibody drugs, and what they do is essentially mimic or enhance your immune system. So when you have cancerous cells, as we often hear and know that your cancer has spread across the body. So, and the therapies we had before, which is just surgery, chemo, radiotherapy, these were not exactly targeted, or say if a tumor is hidden in some corner that was not detected, it would just multiply further, right? What Nivolumab does is it becomes like a proxy immune system. So it mimics your immune system, and as soon as it sees that there are tumors that it needs to attack, it does. So this Nivolumab, or the immunotherapy class in general, these can be used either as a supplement to your chemotherapy, surgery, or radiotherapy. It can be before or after these already existing treatments, or it can be just a solo line of treatment in itself. So all that depends on how the doctor chalks out the protocol, depending on the patient and their markers.
And Sohini, you also highlight that this drug has a much wider use. So could you talk a bit about that?
So why Nivolumab really became a blockbuster drug is it was proven to be very efficacious against a range of cancers. So, as one doctor described it, it's a head to toe drug in that sense, where it's used to treat your head and neck cancers, lung cancers. Lung is a major category where this drug is used. Melanoma, esophageal, gastric cancers, kidney cancers. So the range it could attack, that is what made this stand out. And this potential was seen when the drug was developed. So US FDA, which is the drug regulatory body of US, they have this system of basically designating drugs as breakthrough therapies, which it's a bureaucratic thing. It does not mean something similar that it's actually a breakthrough. But what it effectively does is it makes US FDA starts taking it as a priority drug, and for your rollout, for your regulatory approvals, it all becomes an expedited process. So this drug was in that category. And of course, because it has proven to be efficacious, it has seen commercial success across the world. So the market in India is Obdita, and in India as well, there have been the single company putting out this drug.
And so, what do the current treatment costs look like for patients who need this drug?
So currently, if you look at India Mart, it can range from around 45,000 to around 1 lakh per vial. And this depends on the dosage strength. But doctors were also mentioning this, that this cost can vary because obviously you have your drug, the pharma reps who have a direct line with doctors, and there might be some concessions or some offers where one vial comes free with another. So those kind of arrangements are there. But ballpark, we can say the market price ranges from around 45K to around a lakh.
And Sohini, earlier you spoke about how the court has allowed a biosimilar and not a regular generic medicine. So, what exactly is the difference?
So, in simple words, or a simpler analogy, if we see, it's basically biosimilar is in a sense a higher art, because generics are supposed to be pretty much identical copies of, say, the branded drug. Biosimilars, in that sense, these are not identical to the branded drug. They are similar. And biosimilars, because they are made from biological products, the protein chains, for example, they might have variations. So it also becomes important that when biosimilars are brought out into market, there are widespread safety and efficacy studies that are done. So you can't just simply launch it in the market. There has to be localized studies. So, for example, if a biosimilar has, take Zydus, for example, if they launched the biosimilar in, let's take Vietnam, if they did that, they have to get the biosimilar tested and tried first in a Vietnamese cohort. They can't be just using the, say, for example, the India clinical trials data over there. So there are those nuances broadly.
Right. And so, Sohini, given the complexity of this process, and we know that cheaper can be a relative term in cancer care, right? So, what impact would a biosimilar have on a patient's annual treatment?
So doctors are saying that this might be with the entry of Zydus in this space now, they immediately see the cost coming down by around 1/4 or half. And based on the material, the marketing material that Zydus has started circulating. So this has been circulating since May last year. It's not something recent. They had pegged the cost back then at around 3.86 to 6.5 lakh for a year's treatment. So it's a significant reduction, but again, it's not as cheap as, for example, you just get up and you can afford it. It's probably not affordable still for a large section of the society.
Right, and speaking of the patent, as you mentioned, that it is valid until May this year. So, how common is it for courts to allow early market entry for a drug just months before a patent expires?
So I wouldn't say this is uncommon. It's not rampant, but yeah, it's not uncommon. So the thing is, I think using public interest as a ground to claim immunity from patent infringement, it has been there in, say, court judgments since around the past 10 years. So take around 2015 or so. And interestingly, many of these cases where this factor of consideration was there about public interest, it involved cancer drugs only. So in that sense, it is not exactly new. But what we are increasingly seeing is the court is using public interest now as a significant ground on which your basically patent infringement allegations can be made or broken at the very initial stages of hearing.
And lastly, Sohini, how is India's approach of balancing patents with public interest being seen in the global health circles?
To be honest, India has been flagged at least by the US. So they put out this list called Priority Watch List. And there's a intellectual property thing where they basically flag countries where IP laws are not strong. And all this I'm talking in the context of only pharma companies, but where pharma companies don't see an incentive to enter a market because, say, your patent laws are weak, because if they are coming with a new drug and they don't get the kind of hold over the market, so where they don't get that protection, they're dissuaded from entering into business. So India has been on this priority watch list for the longest time, including in 2025. But now the interesting thing that comes here is, unlike, say, other countries, India's strength lies in the population that it has. So it's a massive market for any drug maker. So in that sense, while we have been seeing an increasing push towards, courts having ruling more in favor of Indian drug makers with, even if we take this public interest thing into factor, the idea or the objective for the courts that they often mention in their judgments is, if it's a life-saving drug, it has to be affordable and accessible to people. So if there's some drug maker who is making that, even if you have a patent over it, we'll discount that aspect. So in a way, the global drug makers in that sense, they're in a bind, especially when it comes to India. With other countries, it depends from country to country. But with India, they're in a bind in that sense.
And next, we turn our attention to Punjab. Last week, Punjab Chief Minister Bhagwant Mann told the media that the union government had agreed, at least in principle, to a long-standing demand by farmers in the state. This demand is to move the security fence in the state closer to the international border with Pakistan. Now, if this happens, it would allow farmers to gain access to thousands of acres of land that are currently off limits. To know more about this demand and what the centre has said so far, my colleague Niharika Nanda speaks with the Indian Express's Kanchan Vasdev, who covers Punjab for the newspaper.
Kanchan, tell us, what do farmers say about why they want the security fence to be moved closer to the Pakistan border?
This is about a 532-kilometer border that Punjab shares with Pakistan. It is secured by a barbed wire fence. Due to the uneven terrain at the border, the distance between the fence and the international border, it varies from a few feet at some places to about 2 kilometers at others. So between the fence and the border, 21,500 acres of land belonging to Punjab's farmers, it is there. And the farmers who till that land, they have to face restrictions for years. They have to pass through the gates that currently grant access to the restricted land, and they're open for the farmers for a few hours every day on not every day, but on designated days of the week. Then there are restrictions on number of people who can work close to the border and the number of tractors they can take to till their land. So BSF also has a very strict protocol which requires 2 Kisan guards also to accompany each tractor crossing the fence. So this limits how many farmers can access their fields daily. So because of all these tiring checks, these border farmers, they have been demanding that the fence should be pushed closer to the international border. They say that the move will help them, solve the problem of restricted access to their land.
And how has the debate over moving the fence evolved over the years? And why do you think this issue has resurfaced in 2026?
This issue has been rankling the farmers for a long time now. They say a lot of their land is behind the fence, and that land is not even considered when their matrimonials are struck. So this is one of the big issues. Then they say there is every day this issue of excess. And then this fence that came up in 1988, a Sangharsh committee, it was formed in 1992, which was formed by the farmers because they wanted to get the fence shifted. So since then, these demands have been made to every successive chief minister of the state. It was raised to the former Chief Minister Prakash Singh Bahadur in 1997. He had taken it up with the then Union Home Minister L.K. Advani, and he had come to Punjab at that time, to the border villages. He had raised some rallies also. He met these farmers. Then he went back and announced that he would make sure that this inconvenience allowance would be given. Then former Chief Minister Captain Amrinder Singh also took it up with the centre. And now it is Chief Minister Bhagwant Mann who has raised it with the Union Home Minister Amit Shah.
But why was the security fence built in the first place?
This was first installed at the border in 3 districts. It was in 1988 when militancy was at its peak in Punjab and terrorist activities were there. So it was said that Pakistan is sending all those arms and militants after training them on their land and sending them back to Punjab. So the key objective of the fence was to curb this infiltration, this militancy and drug smuggling. And they wanted to stop the youths from Punjab to get training in Pakistan and come back to create terror.
What do the farmers have to say about this? What were their main concerns beyond access to land?
They say that now the drones are being increasingly deployed. There is no infiltration physically, like people don't come and infiltrate this side. Drones are used. The nature of arms and drug smuggling has changed. Then border patrolling and surveillance too has evolved. So they always say that the pushing the fence closer to the border makes more sense now with this kind of a scenario. So the farmers also say that some villages are there where 500 to 700 acres are right behind the fence. So that's a huge chunk of land. And then they say they go across after going through those checks. And it's an everyday story for them. And when the machinery has to be taken to those fields, then there's a lot of security check. And then it takes a lot of time. The crop is then taken out of the fields. It is taken in the form of sacks. Then also there is a long check and it is a long process. So this is what they keep saying. Then the problem they say is bigger near the Ravi River, which has a zigzag bank. The fence is straight alongside the river and the farmers face problems near the river as a lot of land is across the fence. And from security and surveillance point of view, the fence is a necessity, they say, but it should be pushed back. So they say it may require a lot of budget, but Centre has a huge budget for defense and this can be done. This is what they argue.
And Kanchan, we understand that a committee was also made to help out people who live in this area. Did that help the situation?
This committee was called Kapoor Committee. It was led by the former Chief Secretary of Punjab, S.L. Kapoor. So it was set up in 1986, before the fence also came up on the ground. Because the centre government, they wanted to study the kind of hardships that the agrarian border communities would be facing after the erection of the fence, which actually happened. That's why this land was cut off of sorts. So this committee, it recommended compensation for the farmers, which was called the inconvenience compensation. So they said it would be like 2,500 per acre released to every farmer. But farmers are saying that they haven't got it every year. They said they got it 4 or 5 times during this phase, but not every year.
But Kanchan, this is after all a security fence we're talking about. What kind of security concerns does this issue raise if the fence is moved?
State government has now been arguing that there are no security concerns because they can easily push the fence backwards. As they say that the way of infiltration has now changed with the advancement of technology. As I already said, that there are drones that bring the payload of drugs and arms on this side of the border. So if the fence is pushed back and the electric current is passed through it, then it would prevent physical infiltration the same way, even if it is like pushed a little backwards. They're saying that at the time of militancy, it was just installed in a straight line because that time there was a lot of panic, there was a lot of security concerns because of the militancy. So that time nobody raised any voice. But now they're saying that they can take it closer to the international border. There are surveillance cameras, they can see from a distance if somebody is coming in, then there can be this alarm system. There are so many ways they can deploy.
And also, what are the major challenges the government faces in shifting the fence?
Yeah, they are saying that it was almost 40 years old, it was in bad shape. So if it is to be removed and pushed back, then it would not work. They will have to procure new barbed wire due to rusting and all that. Now it is in bad shape. They are also saying that they don't put mines in the area anymore, which was done during the Kargil war, and many farmers had suffered injuries and some had even lost their lives. So now they are saying that there are no mines, no accidents take place now. So if the farmers have to just undergo these security checks, that's a minor thing for the nation's security. This is their argument.
And Kanchan, why was the change not made when the issue was raised earlier, and how do we see this going ahead now?
There are still apprehensions that nothing will happen. So farmers are also saying that it's the election year now. Next year, Punjab will be going to the assembly elections in early 2027. So Chief Minister meeting the Union Home Minister and the BJP also trying to win in Punjab and are also trying for a repeat. They both raised this issue. It is convenient for both the political parties. So it was raised and then the announcement was made. So in 2023 also an announcement was made. They're saying they are trying to appease the border area farmers, both the parties. So it's only a wait and watch to see whether it would ever be pushed back or, it will stay where it is.
And in the end, we shift our focus to a case where a woman tried to frame her husband to be with her lover. This case has led to two separate police actions: an investigation into alleged attempts to frame a man in cow slaughter cases, and disciplinary action against 3 policemen who entered the Allahabad High Court premises to arrest the accused woman. As reported by the Indian Express's Bhupendra Pandey, the woman allegedly planned to implicate her husband, a paper industry businessman, in one of the most contentious criminal charges in the state, cow slaughter, so she could separate from him and be with another man. DCP Lucknow West, Vishwajit Srivastav, said the woman and the man she was in contact with met on Instagram about 2 years ago. Police said the man from Bhopal visited Lucknow multiple times. Police alleged the first attempt occurred in September, when the man planted about 2 kg of meat in the husband's SUV parked in Hazratganj after the woman provided the vehicle keys. The man then allegedly informed a right-wing group, which alerted police. The meat was recovered and the husband was arrested and later secured bail after about a month. Now, a separate attempt followed in January. Pandey notes that investigators allege the woman booked a supply vehicle using her husband's phone and shared the booking details and OTP with the man. Police said he arrived in Lucknow on 14th of January with about 10 kg of meat. An e-rickshaw was allegedly directed to pick up a packed bag in the Old City area and deliver it to Kakori, near a manufacturing unit linked to the husband. The vehicle was intercepted next day and the meat was recovered. Police said CCTV footage from the couple's home showed the woman using her husband's phone and that further checks indicated contact with the man. Police said they later detained the man, who allegedly admitted his role. By then, the woman had left home and has not been arrested. Now, Pandey reports that separately police received information that the woman would meet a lawyer at the High Court campus on Tuesday. 3 policemen were assigned to watch from outside and inform senior officers, but allegedly entered the premises using passes obtained with false information. Advocates objected, a crowd gathered, and additional police personnel removed the policemen from the premises. In the disruption, the woman left the area. Police said the 3 policemen have been suspended and booked on charges including trespass and providing false information to gain access to a high security zone. Police said the woman and the man have been booked under the Cow Slaughter Act and BNS sections related to conspiracy. A report on the seized meat is awaited. You were listening to Three Things by the Indian Express. Today's show was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar and produced by Shashank, Bhargava, Niharika, Nanda, and me, Ichha, Sharma. If you like the show, do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcast. You can also recommend it to someone you think may like it, with a friend or in your family. This is the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at Express Podcast or write to us at podcast@indianexpress.com.